back for another episode of the Unpro Pro Rugby Show. Lots of rugby this weekend. Lots of things happen. Lots of controversy. Lots of drama on last week's podcast that we're definitely going to touch on. Mike, what's up, man? How are you?
I'm good, mate. How are you? I'm a bit exhausted after all the rugby and doing all the stats and getting everything written down, mate. But like you said, it was a action-packed weekend and something outside of what we normally do. Caught a bit of attention for us both after the last podcast. Like you just said, we'll touch on that. Be pretty cool.
For sure. I've spoken to a couple of people. I've sent a few of my mates the screenshots, and all of them have said you have to do something with it. So it's not been like one where they've gone like, oh no, like maybe it'll be. They've all gone, mate, you're in the podcast game, you're in the content game. Get stuck into it. So
unreal. Let's go.
It is your turn to kick off the play on or knock on. So I'm going to pass that over to you. The ball was set real high last.
It was.
I feel like you're a bit nervous, mate. Are you a bit nervous?
No, I'm not nervous. Do you know what? I was actually thinking about, I was trying to think of one outside of rugby like you did, but there was three things on my mind that I thought about, and they're all rugby related. So
it's fine.
I'll get straight into it, mate. And one is something that I've been thinking about, and it's an idea of mine. So I want your feedback on it.
Okay.
So knock on or play on for the rugby championship to be played in solely one country. And then every 4 years, it gets passed around. So let's say it goes South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, Argentina. Reason being, before you go on to it, reason being, the traveling, the back and forth. I was actually in contact with a player who plays for the All Blacks, and he made it quite clear that the traveling from Australia back to New Zealand, back to Australia to South Africa is a lot. It restricts them from doing a lot. So from your perspective, is it a good idea, knock on or play on, the rugby championship being played in one country and then being rotated?
I'd love to knock on and play on, but I'm going to go with play on. I love that idea that they teams can then set up base in a country. You obviously play in all the different parts of the country, lots of tourism to the country. You can make a bigger, it can have a bigger impact. I feel like there's a lot more content you can do around it. I think I like that. I like that idea. Yeah.
Well,
and it's obviously then, sorry to butt in again, it's obviously then good for the players because they're in one place the whole time. So I feel like maybe the level of rugby might be even better. Who knows? I like the idea. Play on.
The jet lag, the time difference, and how long's the flight from South Africa to, let's say, New Zealand or Australia?
I mean, I obviously would always take the cheapest flights. That could be like 3 days, man. So I think these guys are at least traveling for 24 hours.
Exactly.
Now that you say that, Rico, Johan, they did a bit of content with the All Blacks. He timed it. It was it was either 31 or 37 hours that they traveled from New Zealand to Argentina. That's crazy.
I mean, I guess, Australia do it and they go to the autumn internationals in the UK, but they stay there for a period of time. They don't play one game and come home. I just thought about it and thought it's a lot of traveling, for one competition. So yeah, it was definitely a play on for me. Yeah, good. All right, mate. Next one, we've touched on this the last couple of weeks, but Eddie Jones's mind games. Are you knocking this on or are you playing on? Is it a good thing or a bad thing?
I had my tinfoil hat on and kind of said that this was part of his gig. Why he got the gig was that he's so outspoken and he's so good with media. So I'm going to play on because that's his role. He's good at that. Yes, he's a good coach as well from what we've heard, and he's obviously his accolades. The form, Australia's Wallabies form right now isn't hitting that level of his chat, but I think it will get there. I'm liking Eddie in the media. Like I said, in Australia, they're competing with NRL, AFL, all these kinds of things. And Eddie's getting there. He's getting front page news. He's distracting from the players. So I'm playing on. I love Eddie in the media. It's good. Yeah.
No, that's good. That's good. All right, mate. And the final one, which I saw over the weekend, and it wasn't anything to do with the rugby championship. It was a local competition. I saw some highlights, and it was being angry at your opposition or your opposite player at full time. Obviously, as we know, mate, you hold a bit of a grudge against your opposition number, whether they do things and if it's really bad and really illegal, I get it. Hold a grudge at the end of the game. But you know what goes on during the game. Like it's a gentleman's sport at the end of the game. Knock on or play on being angry at your opposition at full time.
Knock that on. Knock it on. Again, obviously, if it is something really bad, like they've generally gone out of their way to punch you, dog shot you from behind or dive straight at your knee or something like that, I get that.
Yeah.
But man, knock that on. And what happens between the four lines stays there, and you have beers and hugs and kisses after the game, man. It's get on with it. Yeah.
I agree. I don't know if this was an ongoing rivalry between these two players. I couldn't even name the players. I just saw highlights and saw them going at each other at full time. So I don't know if this has been, over the years they've hated each other. But mate, I've been involved in games where I've been absolutely pumped, and you get in the clubhouse, pour a pint, whatever, and just chat and just laugh it out like it's part of the game. But it was quite disappointing to see because it caused a bit of a ruckus at the end of the game, and it was just like, wow, kids watching all that.
I almost feel like, and I always have a go at my opposition fly-off because I just always do that. I always feel like after the game, we're closer, that we've had a go at each other the whole game. I don't know, just it feels because you laugh, you know what it's about. It's all in the
spirit of the game.
The spirit of the game. That's it. That's the word I was looking for. Yeah. It's like you do get some dickheads that go out of their way to hurt people. Or I don't like personal slurs on the field. You can't really control what the crowd is shouting, but personal slurs on the field, I don't really like that. Man, afterwards, shake hands, kiss,
that's
taps, buy me a beer.
100%. Yeah, 100%. I'm with you, mate. I never held a grudge, and I've been involved in some pretty, dire moments on pitches where I think, wow, why would you do that? But there's been times where I've probably given it back as well. But like I said, I've never encountered that. But when I saw it, it just hit me in the face, and I was like, wow, this is something I can ask, because some people do it. You see it a lot in NRL. But yeah, mate, they were my 3 knock-ons or play-ons. I just before we move on, I did promise that I'd wear my England shirt. That England shirt I wore last week, that's been in the wardrobe for, mate, I'm being completely honest here. I'm thinking 12, 13 years. I put it on last week, and I sat here, and the stench of like a musty stench that was just rising up from my collar, it had to go. And I washed it, put it back on. It's still there. So it's going to have to take a couple washes to get that stench out, but I haven't given up on it.
You will be copping a fine if it's not on for the next.
All right, done.
I think the past 2 weekends ago, our jerseys weren't washed. We still had to play in them, and then that stink is
that's rough,
bad.
man.
Yeah, that stink is bad. All right, moving on. So last week it was a fun-filled episode where we touched on all kinds of things. There was news that the British and Irish Lions were coming to. That was out already, but the fixture list came out where British and Irish Lions are coming to Australia in 2025. So we thought it'd be great to hit best moments in British and Irish Lions history. Looking back, I could have changed the wording to most iconic moments. So during this lies the drama, all right? We did lots of different, you had 3 bits, I had 3 bits that I could put out. And one of my bits was Duncan McRae going ham on Ronan O'Gara. And I put that out as a little clip as well, out on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, everywhere. And on Twitter, I tagged the British and Irish Lions and Ronan O'Gara, thinking this is a massive moment in the British and Irish Lions history. I'm part of the content cartel where, man, if I want things to go viral, as you do, as anyone who's in the content game, you want things to go viral. You want people to see your stuff. This got a bit of backlash not from the British and Irish Lions, but from the second most cap Irish player and all-time points leading Ireland player, Mr. Ronan O'Gara, who's taken to Twitter, or X as it's known now, thanks to Elon Musk, and sent me a DM saying, because I did tag him. I thought he would have maybe laughed it off, but I think I might have touched a nerve. So he's written back, or just written, you enjoyed when I got hit 10 times. So when I opened this, I thought, reading it like that, I was like, well, my reply was, well, not when you put it like that. Still a massive moment in British and Irish Lions history, unfortunately. I'd back you in a fair fight, though. Okay, I thought, with a laughing emoji, I thought he's having a bit of fun. It's happened, when was it, 2003? I mean, it's a long time ago. It's over 20
years ago.
Yeah. He's then written back 2 separate messages. You are a strange person trying to be a funny guy, ... And then a minute later, you have it in best of Lions moments, ... loser. And I didn't know what to write back because I first thought he was joking. And I again still think he's joking. Wrote to which I replied, so that's a no to be a guest on the pod? ? And he's read it and hasn't replied. This is a formal shout out to Ronan. I would love to have you on the podcast, mate. We're two fly-offs that think we know everything about the 10 jumper. You're obviously an iconic player for world rugby. You still are very much involved in the game. You did lots for me in Rugby 08. I won a ton of games with you in my team. You had the star, mate. You could kick all the goals. I didn't put up. There was two other bits I think that were very iconic in British and Irish Lions history. One, namely, where you'd hit Farida Priya out of the air and you got yellow carded or red carded. I didn't put that out. One where Jacques Farid run over the top of you to score a try in the 2009 series. I didn't put that out. So I think, mate, we need to settle this on the pod. So I'm definitely gonna clip this up and I'm gonna put it out to Ronan. Mate, we'd love you on the podcast. It's South African
Mate.
and an Englishman. I think if you throw an Irishman in there, we're a great trio.
Mate, what great listening. I've just got to have my little input here on this. Look, we've both played rugby union our whole lives, right? We're both 10s. There was no malice. There was nothing involved in that comment. It wasn't fun. We didn't stand back. Look, I've been playing rugby since I was 3. It's a gentleman's sport. Like we just touched on, you don't hold a grudge against players. I mean, that's probably an exception to Duncan McRae. I don't know if they're friends after that. I don't know. But from my perspective, it was more of a iconic moment in British and Irish Lions history. If you talk to any person who follows British and Irish Lions and you bring up that, everyone knows, everyone remembers it. It's just one of those moments, not for the right reasons, it was just iconic. Like everyone remembers because it was so brutal and it doesn't happen these days. You would never get away with it. You'd be banned for months and months and months. So if you do listen to this, Ronan, or you do put another tweet out, there's no malice behind it, but you just gotta, you're a professional athlete. There's millions of people watch you on the British and Irish Lions tour. It was pretty iconic. I'm not going to lie. And like you said, I would love, as well as Dane, would love to have you on this podcast to explain your side of things and clear this up.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I could have changed it to most iconic moments.
Yeah.
But best, I just wrote best. Mate, like I said, another shout out, Ronan. We love you, mate. We love you. You kick,
100.
you kick. You know how to kick the ball. You obviously know how to coach. You know a lot about the game. Back-to-back Heineken Cup winning coach now, mate. No malice in it.
All good. It's all good, Ronan. All good, lad.
I hope this something here now goes viral.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on, mate. We're gonna get straight into the games. I feel like we'll hit the Bledisloe first.
Yep.
Is a convincing win for the All Blacks, 38-7 at the MCG. 83,944 fans packed into the MCG. So that was the biggest crowd in Australia for rugby since 2001. Wow. So people saying Aussie rugby in general is dead, or people having a go at Eddie. I'm telling you now, Eddie has a little bit to do with that. He's had a lot of input. He's been in the front of the page. He's been making outlandish comments, and it's getting eyeballs on rugby. That's what Australian rugby needs.
It is. It's mate. Is the MCG the perfect place to hold an international rugby union game? Not so sure. Crowd attendance wise, perfect. I mean, I was looking at those guys down on row 1 and 2. Not only are they 30 meters away from the sideline, they're at eye level as well. But like you just touched on, it's a great attendance for Australian rugby. It shows that people still care. Even in the slump or the form that Australia have shown over the last few weeks, 80,000. I mean, I know there's a lot of Kiwis in Australia. I understand that, but it just shows that people still have a huge passion for Australian rugby. That out of all the negatives we could possibly touch on today with the Wallabies, that is a massive positive in Australian rugby right now, like you just said, mate. It was actually something I wrote down, the crowd attendance. It's if they're selling out 83,000, put them at Allianz, put them at Accor Stadium in Sydney, they're selling it out as well. So massive shout out to the Australian rugby union supporters who've got out there and supported their team in the most not so great times for Australian rugby currently.
100%. And I think it only holds. No, I think it almost holds like 100. So it was almost,
yeah.
I mean, that's close to selling out. That's a lot.
Yeah.
A lot. And someone, a legend of Marty Banks, who follows the page, he put out that there was 3 stadiums in New Zealand where they normally have international games. If all of those stadiums were sold out and put together, it was still more. The NCG was still more. So that's pretty cool.
Amazing.
We're gonna get straight into New Zealand. I want to touch on a sequence of events quickly. Okay. And I've written it down under my kicking thing. So leading up to the first try, a contestable up and under, I'm pretty sure it was from Richie Mwanga, where that sucked in Australia's fullback, Killaway, and they went up to the ball. I'm pretty sure New Zealand got the ball back straight from that ruck. Then the experience of Aaron Smith, knowing that there's no more fullback there, he's in that ruck, puts over a pinpoint end over end box kick that rolls out on the 5 meter. All Blacks don't contest that 5 meter line out, goes down. Scott Barrett reads it to perfection, smashes Tate McDermott. He then loses the ball, and Shannon Frizzell dots it over untouched. When you put just like little sequence of events, things that need to go right, experienced players in the right moments, knowing exactly what to do, but then executing that leads to, that's how the All Blacks open up the Bledisloe one.
Mate, I think we touched on this week one. It's the attention to detail. You know, even when I was playing, I don't think there was ever a time where you wouldn't contest a line out. Like 5 meters out, that's a time you would contest it. You know, the All Blacks back themselves. They don't contest that 5 meter line out. They put pressure on that more, whatever happened. And it's there, like you just touched on, mate. It's those little events that they just execute so well, which put that extra pressure on the Wallabies, which forces a mistake, which then ends in a try to who else? Frizzell. Like it just all goes hand in hand. Frizzell's on cloud 9 at the moment, can't put a foot wrong. And what a way to start as well. It's again, I think we talked about it. The importance of a good start against the All Blacks is so vital, probably more vital than any other team in world rugby, because when they get on a roll, they're hard to stop. And Australia did do well up to like the last quarter of the game, but it just wasn't the ideal start for the Wallabies.
Not at all. But in saying that, I mean, the first 20 minutes, the Wallabies were gone. They come back. So Richie Mwanga missed that kick, and Wallabies come back and scored. And they were ahead 7-5. But I think that was pretty much it. And then All Blacks just got into there when they roll.
That to me, that timing of the Wallabies disrupting the All Blacks, that's the moment where you've got to just pounce on them and just keep that pressure on. The moment the Wallabies took the foot off the gas, All Blacks back in the game. But for, like you just said, that time frame there where they rattled the All Blacks, put the foot on the gas, keep that pressure on and disrupt their game, because the All Blacks are so structured in what they do. You disrupt that structure. I'm not saying they don't have a plan B, but you disrupt that structure. They do, I don't know if panic's the right word, but it does mess them up quite a bit. And it does take them 5, 10, 15 minutes to get back on track, come up with that plan B or whatever it is. But I just feel like the Wallabies maybe scored that try and then went, okay, we're in this game now. And then bang, before you know it, your point's behind again. So, the Wallabies did show moments of better rugby, that's for sure. I know the scoreline at the end blew out a little bit, but, for that period of time, the Wallabies definitely identified the All Blacks are dropping off a little bit, and they punished them, which moving forward, is a good sign.
Something to look at definitely for them. We'll get on to the Wallabies in a moment. I do just want to take, and I did this in the first episode, I just want to, when something special happens, we take a podcast moment, which is only 10 seconds for that special occasion. And I just want to take a podcast moment for Mark Talia's goose step on Marika Koroibete.
Mate, look, again, the Fijian that made, a Fijian being the victim of a goose step, you wouldn't read about it. Do you know what I mean? But mate, just not even that one in particular, but just a footwork of wingers these days. But yeah, that goosey in particular, mate, it's a pleasure to watch. I've tried it. Doesn't look good on an Englishman, let me tell you that much. Like, unless you've got Fijian blood in you, mate, it's not a thing we do.
So I do it all the time because I don't know. I just think it looks cool. I feel like I feel cool when I do it. But the importance of a goose step is going from slow pace to quick. Quick. when I goose step, my pace stays the same. So that's therein lies the
Well, mine slows down, mate. So you got one up on me.
or pull a hammy.
Yeah.
So I've got standout players. So Mark Talia, obviously a massive standout player. 127 meters, 9 tackle breaks, 17 carries, 1 try assist, and bagged a try himself. He also could have bagged a second, but I think they said there was a knock on at the quick tap that he took and scored under the post.
Yeah.
And when you talk about like and just that conveyor belt of players coming through. You've got on one wing where we spoke on the previous episode that we have to look after Will Jordan. But then now you've got Mark Talia, who's busting tackles, bumping off players, running for over 100 meters. Like
he's so natural on the ball, mate. It's like there's no effort going to the way he runs. Whatever he does, it's just like second gear. You know what I mean? And I mean, if he's got gears that he's not using, watch out. But like he's just one of those players again. I was gonna just compare him to another Fijian winger. I forget his name now. Played in Europe, but anyway, just natural, man. Just their stepping, their fluency of their running, how they just evade players is just sickening to watch as a player.
I think he might. I know he's Samoan and South African. He might have a bit of Fijian in him, but I know he's definitely got either his mom or dad is South African. So maybe that's where I'm getting my goose from.
It wasn't I was just comparing him to his ability to move to this Fijian. Anyway, not going to try and pronounce it, but yeah, just so I don't know, second gear, mate, just makes everything look easy.
That natural. It's like some people have got natural movement when they dance. I feel like Fiji naturally when they run with the ball, it just looks
like Joe Rokodoka. Remember?
Yep.
Joe Rokodoka, same, mate. Just even like his step in, the way he put the ball down for a try looked cool. You know what I mean?
It's 100%. Yep.
Sivivatu
was one as well.
Yeah, Sivivatu, yeah.
Rokokoko step and spin. He had a step that just
and an offload. Unreal.
Yep. Unreal. So Scott Barrett was another one that stood out for me. And it's funny how they asked him about obviously that tackle in the first 5 minutes. And he said that, well, he missed his first job in lifting Retallick. So then read the play and went for the next best thing, which was tackling McDermott. So it actually, I think they were supposed to contest that line out, but he missed the pickup, the lift, and then he obviously did well to recover that.
Mate, again, that's just the All Blacks mentality. You know what I mean? Those little 1%ers that, you know, I'm not saying another player wouldn't have done, but just that, you know, fight, that dog in them to just, you know, do whatever's best for the team. You miss one job, you make up for it, and you made up for it straight away. It's just that All Black mentality. I don't want to sound like I'm, you know, blowing smoke up the All Blacks ass every week, but they are the benchmark, mate. And it's
100%.
It is, and you've got to. You want to be the best. You want to compete with the best, and at the moment, that's what the All Blacks are.
Look forward to the opening game of the World Cup. All Blacks versus France, baby. Shit.
Crazy.
All right, moving on to the Aussies. Very bad news for the Aussies in the front row ranks with Alatoa. News of him rupturing his Achilles, so he'll be out for a very long, extended period of time. Then Taniela Tupou went off with a rib injury as well. I don't know how long. He has traveled with the squad to NZ, so I don't know how long that's going to be. But on the other hand, Angus Bell had an absolute blinder. So he ran. What did he? I put it down here. 50. So for a prop now, 13 carries, 53 meters, 5 tackle busts, 1 line break, and 16 tackles, no misses.
Yeah, front rower.
For a prop who's then every other time he's packing down to push in a scrum, like, man, that's outrageous numbers.
It's the evolution of the modern day forward, mate. Like, again, you might be able to refer. Again, I'm older than you, but you know, prop forwards were 110 to 125 kilos, big boys, could scrummage, could still get around the park. And now they're not. Now they're just like, you know, they can play in the back row. They're just another skillful player. And it, like, that just goes to prove those numbers you've just rattled off there just goes to prove the development and the, you know, how the modern day front rower plays. It's unheard of for me. But that, like, I didn't know those stats, but those stats are crazy for a front rower, man.
Because it's not just about scrumming anymore. The front rowers are there to be ball players as well. Obviously, big tacklers and doing the donkey work in cleaning rucks and so on.
Yeah.
But that was great to see. And Aussie need someone like him. And Will Skelton got his hands on the ball more often. Just those hard ball runners, man, and guys that want to run the ball.
Yeah, against big packs, it's definitely needed. Tupou's going to be. I love that guy. I know ribs. I've done ribs before. I'm not a front row. I'm not that tough, but I know ribs can at times take a long time to come back from. So I'm hoping that's not as bad as first thought. But Tupou is just adds that aspect of old school front row with the modern day player, and he's just damaging, man. He's a sort of player. Again, we look at the Malcolm Marks. Either he starts or he comes off the bench. Doesn't matter. When he comes on, he makes an impact, and that's what the Wallabies need: impact players off that bench. There's no doubt about it. They need to have some sort of impact when the going gets tough.
Yeah. So Carter Gordon started. So this is moving to the backs now. We did try our hand at the forwards there. I thought that was really good forward chat, Mike. Well done.
All right, mate. Did all right. Did all right. Far out.
So touching on the backs, Carter Gordon got subbed at, I think, around the 50th minute. I think he started really well. He's a very confident player. It feels he's very flat at the line, throwing nice balls. But I think when his kicking game started to go a bit downhill, it then affected the rest of his game. His first kick at goal was right in front, which he knocked over. His next attempt was a bit to the right, and he pulled it, which was a penalty. And then some of his up and unders were going straight up.
Or sideways. Yeah.
It affects your kicking, affects your general play.
100% it does. Before I touch on that, I just want that Rob Valentini, mate, for the Wallabies, never puts just consistent, great player, and just does that hard work as well. Without him in that forward pack, mate, I think he would. I think the Wallabies would be a completely different team. So big shout out to Rob Valentini, man. He always, he gives 110% every single game. But yeah, Carter Gordon, mate. Look, I'm not 83,000 people. Eddie Jones talking how he talked during the week. It's a big ask, man. And I know Eddie Jones at the end of the game said, everyone has their bad games. You've chucked this young kid in front of a record crowd against the informed All Blacks. You've put pressure on not only yourself, but the team. You're built to be an international rugby player. It's their job. I get that. But man, I don't know. I feel for him. Let's not forget his boot. He's got a huge boot on him.
Yeah.
When he kicks at a hand, man, that ball flies. But I know as well as you, when you're kicking games off, if you don't compose yourself, it will affect your whole game, especially goal kicking as well, because you need to slot them over. I think it did affect him. I don't think his start was too bad. You're right. But I'm not just going to point a finger at him and say he maybe buckled under pressure. I think the whole occasion might have got to him. I haven't seen the Wallabies under this much pressure in a long time. And I think when the coach is doing what he's doing, whether it be good for Australian rugby or not, this isn't a seasoned veteran. This guy's fresh, and I wouldn't be surprised if the whole occasion got to him, to be honest. But shout out to him, massive effort, like it,
100%.
Gave everything, and he didn't play terribly, but that you do notice those things more in international rugby because you expect the best.
100%. Jono did try and get a bite out of Eddie, asking if Carter Gordon was the right selection. Yeah, and Eddie backed him. He did say, he said it was. He felt like it was. And then he referred then to Richie Mo'unga, saying Richie Mo'unga has been there for ages. How many times has he had a not so good game with the All Blacks, especially when he started his first 10 or so tests? So we look to point the finger very often, but you've got to back these guys and you've got to give them time to play there. And he backed him there, so which I liked. I love that. I think he should back him. He should start him again next week.
Yep. Hey, look, it's. I'll never know what it's like to be chucked into a game where you represent your country, your family in front of a best part of 85,000 people. It would be extremely tough. I just think, again, you don't just give up after one game. You blood these players, you get them ready for the future. It's not just the game against the All Blacks. It's a game against, it's a World Cup and way beyond. So they need someone new there. They've had the likes of Foley, Cooper's still there. How long's he got left? They need someone there. They need to find someone. He looks like a good fit. He just needs to get his confidence up and he just needs to back himself. And I'm sure the players that he's got around him, like Cooper, is a bit of a role model and a bit of a guide in that position and in that environment. I'm sure he'll be fine moving forward. But again, if you have a bad first game, people remember you from that first game initially. So I do feel for him, but I'm sure he'll come out and he'll smash it next time.
100%. I thought there's just a couple of shining lights within the Wallabies. A couple of guys that played really well in positions where there's been a lot of chop and change. And I feel like these guys need to now be given these jerseys and be like, this is yours. to lose. And then they almost need to go with the whole Queensland in league now where they pick and stick. Like give these guys like 10 or 15 games. Like you need to almost play yourself out of this position. But we're giving you this position. So one was Angus Bell.
Yes.
I'm not talking about the guys that like Valentini. I feel like Michael Hooper, those guys are there. There was Skelton, those guys are there. I'm talking about positions where there's been a bit of chop and change and we're not too sure yet who's playing. Angus Bell, for sure, should be given the one jumper. This is yours, mate. It's yours to lose. I think Mark Nawanga Nitawase. Yes.
Way, you've been practicing that.
Yes, I have. Mark should be given the 14 jumper. This is yours, mate. This is yours to lose. I think Jordan Pataya at 13. There's been a lot of chop and change. He had a really good game. Anytime he did get the ball, it was always over that vantage line. There's always a bit of excitement when he gets the ball.
It's great. Yeah, he's one of my favorite players for the Wallabies. Has been every time he's played. You know those players where no one talks about, and I'm like, geez, if he wasn't there, they probably notice a big difference. Ty is just one of those. I rate him as a player, always have.
100%. And then lastly, I think might not have had the best game, but I do feel like he is their best option at fullback right now. And Andrew Kellaway. I think so. I don't think he had the best, which Wallabies were under the pump, man. Let's be honest. But Wallaby, I don't think they have an out and out fullback now.
No, I like Kellaway. Every time he's pulled on that jersey, he's done a job for Australia. I don't see why he can't cement that spot as his own. Again, with Eddie Jones, who knows what's gonna, what players he's gonna pluck from where. But yeah, I rate Kellaway. He's a try scorer. His vision is good. His kicking isn't too bad out of hand as well when he sees space. But again, like you said, I don't know who's competing.
It's almost, I almost feel like it's these guys are getting the jumper, and then it's like, oh, I don't really want to don't want to step out line because am I getting it next week again? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you want a core group of guys being like, yeah, this is your jumper. We're going to show faith. We're going to trust you you need to really have like 5 or 6 bad games in a row for you to not have that jump anymore.
I agree.
And it's younger. These guys are younger as well.
Yeah. And it will stuff with their confidence. It just stuffs with the whole team dynamic as well. So show a bit of faith. 5 or 6 games. If they're not performing, you're going to have to ring some changes. But until then, give them that time, and they've earned their jersey. So give them a shot.
100%. Was there anything else for you on the bled game?
Just looking at what I wrote down. I think the 2 yellow cards, the Korobiti, Tupou. I think again. I hate to repeat myself, but you can't be down to 14 men against teams like the All Blacks. It's just not going to work. It's hard enough with 15 players on the field. You're putting people in the bin for silly things, and it's not fair on your friends as well, your mates, your teammates. It's just. Again, I've never been in that arena. I'm sure it's frustrating. I'm sure you just want to do what's best, and you overstep that line ever so slightly, and you're like, "Oh shit!" Now I'm on the bench for 10 minutes. It's a tough one, but those big moments are made for big players, and you've got to step up and be one of those big players, and try not to. I hate to say let your teammates down, but unfortunately, that's pretty much what it is against those tough teams. You've got to be disciplined enough to trust your mates inside and outside you, and just hold it together. And I'm sure the All Blacks are chipping away at them during the game. And I know when England played Australia, we targeted that second row, and he pulled Johnny Hill's hair and gave him a headbutt. It was a complete plan by Eddie Jones, and England executed it. Was I a fan of it? No, but again, we knew if we got this guy off the field, advantage England, and that's what happened. I think New Zealand are just good at whatever they do. You just got to keep 15 players on the park if you've got any chance
at all,
breaking them down.
Yeah, 100%. All right, I think that was it. Again, obviously a massive, just the All Blacks are just, again, the benchmark. Wallabies just need to get to Eddie's chat level. Then
it wouldn't surprise me if the All Blacks come out in the World Cup and they're just a different team. Wouldn't surprise me. I've got written down here just one thing before we move on to the Springboks game is in capital letters, Will Jordan once again. Like the guy, he's just a pleasure to watch, man. It makes me extremely jealous of his talents, of what I didn't have when I was playing. But he must be an absolute nightmare to defend against, to attack against. He just makes the right decisions at the right time. The guy's a freak. I've repeated myself from last week, but he really is.
Funny, I was telling a couple of my mates when we were watching, I was like, New Zealand have always got a token white guy in the back line that just kills it. So going back to John Kerwin back in the day, then Christian Cullen, who else is there? You
Ben Smith,
Jeff Wilson, Ben Smith, Conrad Smith, Corey Jane,
Carlos Spencer. Well,
Yeah, I don't know. I think he was
maybe not that.
old.
Maybe not.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But they've always got that token white
yeah,
guy in the either outside center or the wing or fullback that just
yeah.
carves up, man. So
I'll,
the
I'll
white.
tell you some. Go
Yep.
on, carry on.
No, you go.
No, it's a real quick story about Ben Smith. I went to a rugby school in the UK called Colston's, and we were training one day, and randomly this one of our teachers turned up with this real skinny little kid from New Zealand. He was over on like this exchange from New Zealand, and he rocked up, got changed. He had these skinny little chicken legs. He put this blue headgear on and was running around, extremely skillful. And we were like, wow, this guy, he's good. He's really good. To look at, shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but to look at, wow, like there's nothing to him, but he's shown some promise. Anyway, he played with us for a year, went back to New Zealand, ended up being, well, it was Ben Smith still when he was at the school, but just an unreal story of this skinny little kid at school who no one thought anything of, extremely skillful, and just worked on himself and became, in my eyes, one of the best All Blacks ever. And he's, to go on and watch him do what he's done, it was just a weird, because I remember that day when he walked down and he was just this skinny little kid. And I was just like, oh, and then bang, that's who it is. It's just one of those moments I look back on in my rugby career and go, wow, I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to the RGs versus the Springboks. So 22-21. There's controversy right from the bloody kickoff. Grant Williams on his first test start collects the ball from the kickoff, kicks, gets charged down, but in that, Juan, I've got his name down here.
Good luck.
Juan Cruz Malia, the fullback's hip. So with the charge down, hits into Grant Williams' head, knocks him clean out. So that's like, I think 10 seconds into the game. So your first start, knocked out, stretch it off. Nothing was said or anything like that. The ref didn't even stop play. So they played on. I think a penalty happened there, and then afterwards it's come out. Argentina fullback under law 9.11, players must not do anything that is reckless or dangerous to other. Citing commissioner deemed Malia's charge on Grant Williams meets the red card threshold. So there'll be something definitely happening there. So he'll get a couple of weeks for that. But again, after the fact, it doesn't really,
No, it doesn't matter. And we've talked about Carter Gordon and his start. It doesn't get much worse than this.
no.
You know what I mean? Not just for yourself, but your family, to build up, and then bang, first start. Such a random way as well. But I didn't know that. So he'll be sanctioned as a red card from that tackle.
Yep.
Doesn't help, like you said, doesn't help during the game.
Result of the game, no.
No, it doesn't. I don't know if rugby union have ever really had a issue with those sort of it should be pretty black and white in terms of what the rules are. But obviously there was a bit of wasn't your usual red card, I would say. But looking back now, if it was a red card that early on, man, it could have made a huge difference to that result.
Yeah, for sure. It was funny because a couple of years ago when CJ Stunder used to play for Ireland, he played his first game back in South Africa against the Springboks for Ireland. And he did something similar to Pat Lambie, knocked him out.
Okay.
He got a red card. Exactly the same, charge down in his hip, knocked Pat Lambie's face, and he got red card for that. So yeah, it was interesting. But like you said, it was literal first movement of the game.
Yeah,
a lot of red card there is a tough one. So, Argentina went to an early start with 2 penalties, and I wrote down when I was watching that, Carrera's kicked. He was kicking really well off the tee, and I wrote down great kicking. He then went on to miss the rest of his kicks, and they lost by 1 point. I've got my dad's voice in my head just saying, you can't afford to miss your kicks.
No, who charged down that kick or attempted to charge it down? That one?
No, it was the fullback. The fullback.
It was okay. Well, that moment of that South Africa player just sprinting for his life and not charging it down, but just putting the element of confusion in that kicker's head, and he sprayed it to the left. I did the same as you, mate. His kicking at the start, and then it just goes to show maybe pressure. I don't know. I mean, they weren't easy kicks by any means, but they just, without that pressure from that South Africa player on that kick, if he gets that, Argentina win the game.
Oh, was that at a conversion?
Yeah, sorry, conversion from the right-hand
Oh,
touchline.
okay. No, I didn't see that. No.
It was, I think it might have been Chazin, I'm not sure, but
Okay.
someone just bolted. If you watch the highlights, bolted. By the time he hits the ball, South Africa player is pretty much on the tee. Doesn't
Right.
charge the ball down, but just put, I can imagine that kicker.
Yes. Yes.
Carreras would have been there, heard footsteps, important kick. And then you look at the end of the game, 1 point, missed kicks. And
Yeah.
there it is. There's the game right there.
100%. And like, and you said before last week, you thought that the Springboks were going to go out like convincing win. I thought as well, at least 10 points. And it
Yeah.
started to look like that. Obviously, RG's led early on, but then the Springboks started to get control of the game and they scored a couple of tries. And I thought, okay, well, yeah, it's going to happen now. And Pumas, just in that old-fashioned Argentinian style of, they almost play a similar style of rugby to the Springboks, where these forwards are so physical, man.
Yeah,
So physical.
I think they prided. I think we, again, I keep saying it, but we touched on this, is that old school. Even Argentina back in the day, their forwards were, or forget the name of their prop or their hooker. He was a captain. He played, I don't know how many caps for Argentina, but he had grey hair. He was bald by the time he finished. He had a bit of hair on the side.
Yes.
I don't know if you remember his name. He ended up being a coach.
Ledesma?
Yes, that's it. Yeah, he didn't. He never retired. He played since I was 3 up to like 33. It was crazy, but that was the mentality of that Argentinian pack, was just big, physical. That was what they relied on in those games. The forwards would do the dirty work, really get on top of them, and potentially those backs, finish off those tries. But yeah, I completely agree. They matched it up front. I don't look, with all respect in the world to Springboks, I didn't think they played well at all. They got so much potential there. And they just didn't. Again, you can talk about it all day. Was it taking Argentina too easy? Was it just a bad day at the office? I don't know, but I think this whole rugby championship is a huge, a big eye opener for a lot of international teams to go, okay, Argentina are here and they're here to stay, and they're going to compete with the best, because that's what they're doing, and they deserve all the credit they're getting.
100%. Wanted to touch on the Springboks quickly, just on attack and I've written down one of the standout players in Eben Etzebeth. He become the fourth most capped Springbok, I think it was, overtaking John Smith. Or was that last week? No, that was this week.
Yeah, it was this week. 112 caps. He passed John Smith. John Smith, sorry, and scored his 5th try for the Boks in 112 tests. Yeah.
I think every time he carries the ball, he's beating the first defender and not stepping, or he's running over the top of you or handing you off or bumping you off. He's really good at that. I feel like because he's so tall and he's obviously fucking strong as well, it's so hard to get to. I always remember trying to tackle taller guys because they've got longer arms and a longer reach. Their handoff they can handle easier. Now imagine putting Eben's size there as well.
Like that, when he was hanging out on the wing and Leroux hit him with that perfect pass and he just ran over the top. Was it the winger or the fullback?
The 10,
no, a winger.
The 10.
Oh, was it 10?
Yeah, Carreras.
Mate, standing there looking at Etzebeth on the wing, going, no, you won't get the ball. And then all of a sudden you see that ball land in his hands. You're in all sorts of trouble. But yeah, like, he's got, for the size of the guy, tall, athletic. We've talked about how these players getting bigger and stronger. 112 caps, still looks like he's 22. And just the ability to run over players, but just still run and like carry on. And he's just big, strong, athletic. He's everything you want in a second row. But big. I mean, 112 international caps, man. That's a pretty mean feat to get to.
Staying with the forwards, obviously, like the stalwarts, Malcolm Marx we touched on it before last week, had a massive game. Him and Kitsy both so strong at ruck time in stealing, like getting pilfers. I think they both had a couple of, Marx had a crucial turnover early on in the game. RGs were getting a roll on they're right near their line, and it's like they know exactly their timing. They get so low. And like I've said, it's like an oak tree. Trying to move an oak tree. That's not going to happen.
There was times there I was looking at Marks, he was sort of like the whistle would go and he was just walking around the other players. I know everyone knows he's a huge unit, but man, he's just an absolute weapon. Now, I need to ask you a question. Obviously, I'm pretty sure farming in South Africa is pretty big thing.
Yes.
Because I come from a farming county, and where I'm from, Cornwall, forwards in Cornwall are renowned for being just strong, a big guys. Now, I've played with prop forwards, mate, who will hold it with the best, never lifted a weight in their lives. All they do all day is carry hay bales, move cows and sheep, and they just naturally, mate, they'll scrummage and they won't be moved. And that's not through, for like the likes of me and you, the smaller guys of get in the gym, lift weights, become stronger. These guys are just built to do it. They've been doing it their whole lives. And Malcolm Marks just reminds me, if he was a Cornish rugby player, mate, he'd fit straight in. Not with the likes of me, but with the forwards. But he just has got that big, natural, strong physique, man. He's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. I then touched on so moving on to again, great forwards chat. Are we forwards now?
I don't know, mate. Maybe I was made to be an 8. I don't know. Maybe I was made to run over the 10s. I don't know. I'm loving it.
I always, whenever I played 7s, I would always wear the 6 or 7 jumper. Just I don't know. That's just mentally. I'm like, I think I was born a flank. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I've done one. I've done one pilfer in my life, and I've kept it on my phone. I've got a video of it. Whenever anyone says anything, I'll just send them that. I'm like, mate, just because.
When we were playing under 16s, we played a team called Falmouth. Shout out to Falmouth. They weren't the strongest team in the world, but man, they gave it a good shot. And we decided that forwards would play in the backs and the backs would play in the forwards for the game. Well, I played hooker for this game, mate. And I remember used to scream at the forwards, get to that breakdown. You know, we need to get the ball, retain the ball. And then I used to just chuck the ball around and expect them to get there. Mate, I played hooker, and now the hooker was playing 10 and he was screaming at us to get to the breakdown. Never again did I ever go to the forwards like I used to, man. Honestly, I've got a lot of respect for forwards, and 100%. That was a moment in my life. I'm thinking, I'm glad to wear the 10 jersey and not get trapped between all those guys. Yeah,
100%. Big forwards are a different gravy, man. Big shout out to the forwards. So moving on to the backs, we said before you mentioned about the partnership between De Allender and Creel, and I've said, I'm not too sure about, because I mean, they've obviously played a lot of football together, but they weren't ones to throw the ball around. But and that's a lot to do with attack. What they do bring, and especially Creel on defense, I think makes up for his, in quotation marks, lack thereof on attack. His defense, mate, rushing out of the line, knowing exactly when to rush out, who's going to get the ball. And then not just that, because a lot of people do rush out, but then they'll go high, and then they might slip off the tackle where the attacker will beat them quickly on a little step. Jesse Creel's rushing out and making a low chop tackle, and he does it really, really well. So I think that side of him really makes up for his the others that he doesn't bring.
I mean, it's a bit cliche. Defense wins games, but it's true. Like you stop them from scoring points. As long as you can score points in your team, like you're going to win the game. You know, to have the ideal defender and ideal attacker in the centers, it would be hard to come by. But definitely his, not his, but their defense was decent. And I can refer to someone like Manu Tuolangi. Great in defense, great in attack. Like for me, if he wasn't injured so much, someone like Tuolangi is the perfect center. Yeah. He's going to hit holes. He's going to break tackles. He's not going to miss a tackle. But yeah, I think they did a good job, mate. Like I said, there was a lot of caps split between them there. But it doesn't matter how many caps you've got, how much experience you got. When you get paired up with someone different from the last 4, 5, 6 games, whatever it may be, you still have that transition period of getting used to them, what their strengths are, the communication side of things. I've never played 13, but I know 13 is a pretty hard position to defend in. And, it's, again, you change teams around and you chuck people in. You can't expect a masterclass straight away, but they definitely showed promise. And yeah, like you said, the defensive side of things, I didn't really pick up on that as such, but now you say it, like it obviously is a 13. He's obviously doing the right things, but I think they're a good center partnership. And I just enjoy watching both of them play, to be honest.
I think the wings did well to then read the defense as well. That's one thing too. If one guy's rushing out the line and they do get the pass on, the rest of the back line are kind of in two minds. So it's the like Cheslin and Kirtley aren't really rushed up with him.
How big is that Kirtley? Because I saw him get bumped off on the wing there, which like it wasn't the worst thing in the world, but I know he sort of bumped him off and carried on his run. I just again, going back to the size of players these days and people getting bigger and stronger, like defensively, you can't miss tackles in games. They're going to score points. It was a bit of a random hero play, which he probably had to do. And those moments, you've got to make your tackles. I did see him get bumped off in that game. I don't know if I don't know much about this guy, but is his defense as a small guy pretty good?
It definitely does. It definitely is.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I think his speed helps him a lot with defense.
Yeah.
He does.
Of course.
Like he can just give someone the outside. He's always going to catch them. I think that one-on-one, straight one-on-one, any smaller guy is going to struggle like that.
Yeah, of
I think he
course.
uses his good attributes, which is his speed, to his
Mm,
advantage. So he kind of gives someone the space and then just
yeah,
make those legs tackles.
yeah.
Where Cheslin is the same. He's a little bit bulkier, but I think he's got the same style of defense.
Okay, yeah.
Using your speed. Where I mean, I've seen Cheslin bump props,
But he bumped
bump and
someone,
block.
well,
So
partially bumped someone on the weekend and
he's
made a few meters. So
strong.
he
Yeah.
punches above his weight. Yeah, yeah.
So I wanted to ask you, obviously, we 210s that think we know everything about the 10 jumper. Having a right and left-footed kicker.
Uh,
So right-footed kicker at 10 and a left foot at fullback. So Marnie Lebork, right foot,
yep,
Billy LaRue, left foot.
yep.
Explain how good that is as an attacking point of view, and then how difficult that is to read as defense.
Yeah, I that's huge to me. I was a right footer. My best mate, who used to play 12. My mate Sam Parsons, he was a left footer. You look at England, you've got Owen Farrell, you've got Henry Slade, right and left. Now in the South African setup, I think it's just, when you've only got one right-footed kicker in that team, as a fullback, as wingers, when you drop to defend, sort of when that's coming. When you've got options either side, I'm not a winger, never been a winger, never will be a winger, but it's more so like, when do I drop? Which side's it going to? Even as a fullback, where am I going? The space is there. Oh, he's a right footer. He's not going to come across his body, but hang on, they've got that left footer to hit that corner now as well. So I think it's really important. And, it's not just those long field kicks to gain meters. It's in play as well. Just to have the ability. Look, I'm a kicking coach, as you know, mate. And when I go and do a session with a group of backs, they'll say, look, come and do this session. We've got 8 backs. And I said, look, my first session, I like to get everyone involved, forwards and backs. And the reason being, it's not about me having a financial gain from this. I think every rugby union player now in this day and age should have the ability or know how to kick a ball, whether they use it or not. If you're a hooker and you're caught one in from the touchline and your winger's outside you and you get the ball and the fullback's out of position and your winger asks for a grubber kick, knowing that you've got the ability to be able to execute a kick, I think in today's game is crucial. So by all means, come along, learn how to kick. You don't have to use it every week. But I think in the modern day game, being able to kick and the way that players are developing, it's becoming easier and easier, is just crucial. To have that, left and right foot kicker in a game, mate, is just, to me, is absolutely gold, because one's a bit tired, give it to the other one, vice versa. There's more room this side, give it to him. And just opens up a whole new thing for the whole team. And it's for me, it's something you probably moving forward now, it needs to happen in nearly every team. And look, most backs can kick.
Yep.
But can they kick effectively? That's the question you've got to ask yourself. Can you kick in pressure moments? But like I've just rattled them off, the England side, South African side now, it's really important. And I see the benefit from it as a kicking coach or as someone who's kicked in the past. I look at things like this and I think it's a game changer. Personally, for me, it's a huge game changer.
I definitely think coaches are looking at when selecting teams, especially
Yep.
backlines, to see
Yeah.
if you've got a left foot, because most guys are right-footed, but when you
Yep.
think of the best kickers, it's always been a left footer.
Left
And
footer,
you think
yeah.
of the best batsman as well in cricket, it's always been
Yep.
a left-handed batsman, I think.
Interesting.
But it's
Yeah.
that's an interesting little stat there. But when it comes to selection, definitely that's another link. It's another tick someone can have in getting the boot over someone else, is if can you kick, and then do you have a left foot, or can you kick effectively as well?
Yeah. It still works having that one kicker, but if you've got that option,
Yep.
geez, like it just opens up so
I
much.
don't think
What are your thoughts on it? If you had the option, I mean, I guess you put yourself in this scenario. You've got an out and out 10 who can kick off his right foot. You've got a center who can kick off his left, but isn't amazing in defense. But you've also got a center who can't kick, but is unreal in attack and unreal in defense. As a coach, it's going to be difficult because that kicking option just outweighs for me quite a lot. Obviously, you wouldn't jeopardize your defense or whatever, but I think just again the way the players are developing and the skill set of these players, and majority of backs can kick now, and it's absolutely, it's just like gold dust in that international environment.
it becomes another point of attack, because kicking has always been this whole defensive thing. Like you're in your goal area. Oh, you need a kick to get out of your goal area. But kicking nowadays has become an attacking weapon. If you've got a right and left
100%.
footer, we know right footers, if you're on the right side of the field, you get the ball from the ruck. That's where all the pressure's coming from. You can't then shape to kick. You're going to get charged
That's
now.
right.
You've got an option then to hit out the back. you've got a left-footed kicker. It opens up the whole left side of the field, and he's straight onto the left boot, and he's either chipping it, he's either kicking it long, he's either up and undering. Just opens up your point of attack so much wider.
So important. Yeah.
Yeah.
Game changer.
Was there anything else for you from your side on the RG's South Africa game?
Look, I wrote a few things down. Again, Willie LaRue, just the experience. I think, again, without that sort of player in the team, completely different way of playing, I guess. I just looked at that pass to Eben Etzebeth on the wing, just a pinpoint pass, perfect spiral pass, hit him, with all the respect to forwards, sometimes they might struggle with some of the passes that backs might be able to pick up, but he just didn't make it hard for Etzebeth at all. Straight in the guts, just powered over. Try time. I think he's a huge, I don't know how long he's got left in him, but he's a huge part of that team. And I go on a lot about experience, and I found in every team I've played in, experience is key, just to keep those younger players grounded. But not only that, in those moments where you could be 20, 30 points ahead, and the younger kids are getting a bit ahead of themselves, to bring them back down to earth and say, instead of trying all this now, let's put 50 on them instead of 30, and let's play to our game plan. Let's not get excited. Willie LaRue, I think, with a lot of fresh talent in that Springbok side, going into tournaments like the World Cup, it's going to be crucial for the Boks. I'll write a few stats down, mate. I think LeBock's kicking was a bit, a good kicker, goal kicker as well. Again, we've touched recently on the last couple of episodes about the Springboks and their goal kicking. I think LeBock's a great player. He looked very natural where he was. He's got speed, he's got skill, he can kick. He's great to have there moving forward as well. But the Boks 20 turnovers to Argentina's 8. And I think that goes back to the likes of Malcolm Marx, players like that who were an impact player last week. This week, they're just in there. That's what they're good at. That's what they love doing. And those sort of stats, South Africa should have won by more, I feel. Again, it's a double-edged sword. South Africa weren't great, still won. Argentina have got to look at it and go, okay, we came within 1 point, but South Africa were pretty bad. Do you know what I mean? So it's like they've got there's things for each team to work on moving forward into the World Cup. But I just think, the Boks just need to stick with that ideal mix of experience and that fresh blood. And I think they will go very close to going back to back. It pains me to say it, but I think they've definitely got the potential there.
Yes,
love
boy,
that.
And
that took a lot for me to say, mate.
I'll be wearing this jumper and then afterwards I'll keep wearing it until the next World Cup. All right, well, that's the Rugby Championship done. There's one Bledisloe Cup game left. The Springboks are traveling to Argentina. It's labeled as a Rugby World Cup warm up. So man, there's international rugby now until the end of October. So
unreal.
Really looking forward to that.
It was good to see Caleb Clark get on the field. We touched on him and we said, is there a place for him in this team with the ability that they've got and the talent they've got? Caleb Clark came on and played out of his skin, which again puts a bit of a thing in the selector's mind. So again, not good for every other country, but good for the All Blacks. But to sum up the whole weekend, mate, I absolutely love the rugby this weekend. It's good to go into a World Cup and a big tournament not knowing
who's going to win.
The All Blacks are stand out at the moment, but they can buckle at times. But it's like going into a tournament not going right. It's going to be South Africa, England, Australia, New Zealand. You got the Argentina. It's just I just love that, and I'm looking forward to World Cup more than ever.
We'll see our first bits of I think France play this weekend, Ireland play this weekend. So man, there's so much rugby.
Good, man.
We'll get to talk about those games as well. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, guys. Again, thanks to everyone. Hit the like, subscribe, all those cool things. Tag us on Instagram. Send us your feedback, your play ons and knock-ons, and tag Ronan O'Gara. Get him on the.
Tag him away. Spam it.
All right, guys. We'll see you next time.
See you guys. Appreciate it.